Thank you, Safi Bhai, for inviting me to speak before all of you and the Taral Government College and Principal Professor Loan. So in morning session we have started our debate about whom has been remembered and whom is not remembered as a hero. And it's very difficult when we are talking about the history of a rich civilizational nation, which Manindji was talking about in the morning, about the idea of freedom that we have had in greatest knowledge tradition that a country can have or a nation state can have. Then why this happened that some people were got marked in golden letters in the history and others were left out. So when Safi Bhai called me and he said that you have to not only speak on the unsung hero, because I am not a person of history, but you have to talk about how unsung heroes have contributed in making India a plural India, which was a difficult challenge to think of, because the only thing that social sciences are missing today is to making itself more plural, because by nature we are plural but sciences are not becoming plural. This is a major contradiction that we have to face in our day-to-day life, including the knowledge production system. So this is a major challenge, that whom should be called unsung hero, whom should be called celebrated hero, how idea of heroship itself is being constituted. First speaker said that it is the power or the state power that creates the celebrity or the hero, and Manindji has an argument that it is a social process which always creates its own social hero, whether they have been documented or they have not been documented, but they are the hero.
I request keynote speaker Dr. Ashma kindly take the seat on the dais. Please, sir.
So today morning when the session started with your college song or college tarana, ilm, and Professor Thakur has tried to define the idea of ilm in a wider perspective. So I was also remembering the same college that me and Dr. Thakur used to share for a long time. I was a student, he was my teacher, then we both of us have worked as a colleague also in that institution. Now he moved to JNU and I am there only. So we also have the similar kind of college tarana, Bulandiyo pe ilm ki बढ़े चलो. That is, and it is written by one of our teacher. Bulandiyo ki ilm pe बढ़े चलो. The more significant part is the next part. है ilm se hi रोशनी. The light and darkness that used to decide the aspects of history that we have to understand. है इल्म से ही रोशनी, है इल्म से ही जिंदगी, है इल्म से ही फैज की आदमी है आदमी. So the basic idea of ilm is to making you more human, and this is why history always has to play a greater role, that how we can generate this idea of humanness or being human. So it is much more than being human. What Salman Khan brand is talking about, we have to talk about being human in some other direction. So first is that, so my entire lecture is organized into two parts. Part one is the problems of historiography, that he has also spoken about that, Nietzsche and Beatrice Spivak and others. And Professor Thakur has also talked about the idea of how subaltern historians have tried to change the entire map of noting heroes and non-heroes, or heroes or unsung heroes or celebrated heroes, including historiography plus the idea of constituting a hero, how a hero is getting constituted in a social structure. Number one. And number two, I will talk about 2 and 3 unsung heroes, जिसके बारे में कुछ लोगों ने बात भी किया, and I feel आप सब में से कोई नहीं जानते होंगे, वो रियली अनसंग हीरो है, बट ही हैज़ कंट्रीब्यूटेड अ लॉट टू नॉट ओनली फ्रीडम इन स्ट्रगल but also to make India a plural India, a make India of everybody, to celebrate the composite culture. So entire your idea of celebration or idea of heroship should be revolved around the composite culture which has produces the idea of Hindustan. I will not say only the idea of India, but idea of Hindustan. which is a more organic or natural term. So whenever we are talking about the idea of historiography, who should be the part of history? See, this is a mechanical part of history when we are talking about sources, archive, facts, dates. So these are the mechanical part of history. Being a historian, you are trained to follow all the lines of your training and produce the argument. But the major role the history has to do, or history is supposed to do, is to create, not only talk about the fact, journalists are also talking about the fact, but the role of historian is more important, because fact has to create a perspective, and the perspective has to generate a moral argument. This is a theoretical understanding one must have when we are talking about the idea of historiography. So facts are not plain facts. Facts are not like mathematics, 2 plus 2 is 4. Here the 2 plus 2 is infinity, or 2 plus 2 may not be 4. More than 4 or less than 4. So first we have to understand in historiography, the role of fact is very dynamic. Fact has to generate a perspective, and every perspective has its duty in knowledge creation to generate a moral appeal. That's why the entire movement sustains. Movements always sustain on the idea of moral appeal. So sometimes we think that Gandhi was the biggest person, or the larger, you can say the tallest person, to generate those kind of moral appeal through his acts, through his strategy. I am not only treating Gandhi as just a philosopher, Mahatma, or a saint. He was a trained political strategist also. He knows how to do the politics and how to fight with the colonial power, because he was not simply engaging in the moral lecture that many interlocutors have raised this question. But since his strategy was equipped with the moral argument, and that is the duty of the history to create those kind of moral argument which have some kind of sustainability. So Gandhi ne kaha non-violence is a better idea. Non-violence has its own history, and Gandhi was trying to conceptualize in his own way. So where heroes are created and where unsungs are left. Now the point starts from here. Sometimes the power used to delegitimize the moral appeal. Because moral appeal always creates some issues for the powerful person. कोई मोरल अपील होगा जो समाज के ऊंचे तबके के लोग हैं, उनके लिए कुछ ना कुछ सांस्कृतिक कल्चरल हेरिटेज और कल्चरल ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन पैदा करता है. सो सम मोरल अपील्स आर लिसन एंड सम मोरल अपील्स आर discarded. Those moral appeals are discarded, although they were the moral appeal created by some people, become the unsung hero. And if the moral appeal has a power to overcome the powerful who is discarding the moral appeal, you can win the situation like Gandhi. Earlier the Britishers tried to discard the moral appeal of Gandhi by making fun of him, by making fun of his ideas. But ultimately he proved himself through his moral appeal when the people have started moving towards Gandhi and following Gandhi. So this was the one thing. Second thing, we should never ever think that history is inclusive discipline. It is highly exclusive discipline. Because why it becomes not inclusive of everybody? Because today's present is tomorrow's history. You have to understand these relations. History is not in abstract. History is always has to be understood in the present. If you are not talking about the present, you can't talk about the history. So when I realized that my caste heroes were not counted in the freedom struggle, I realized when I have a sense today when I was discarded by someone on the basis of caste. So similarly, people like Ambedkar and others, when they came to know about that, they are not going to be the part of the history because they have been discarded someday. So they are present always. So we have to connect the history with the present if we have to understand the unsung hero. So this was a part of the historiography, how history plays role in creating narratives. See, narratives are not only created by circumstances. Individual have to play a role as an agent. Both is a mixing of individual and circumstances. So this is the historiography that one has to understand how this project of unsung heroes was taken up, and why we decided to talk about unsung hero only after the 75 years of our independence is a different question. Because now we have changed the set of players. Now the change of discarders have been, earlier some other party was used to be in power, so he was discarding someone, including someone. Now someone else is in power, so discarding it. But I told you, discarding someone is not negating the role in the history. If they have the power of moral appeal, or if they have the power, they will be again recounted in the history if the time will come. Like we are talking about Phule and many other social thinkers who were not counted in the mainstream history by the others. Of course, the intervention by subalterns was a major way to writing historiography in India. But there is a problem with subaltern historiography. He is saying, he raised this question about Gayatri Spivak, can subaltern speak for themselves? Or subaltern has decided to redesign the history in a new format, like Sahid Amin, one of the members of that subaltern group, he written about event, memory and metaphor. So how an event can be converted into a memory, or whether memory is actually a memory or a metaphor, then one has to decide about. And he is contextualizing the size of context of Chauri Chaura in UP. Chauri Chaura, you must be knowing about, after the Khilafat Andolan started by Mahatma Gandhi, there was a violence activity in Chauri Chaura in UP. And when the policemen, 22 policemen and a police station was burnt out by protesters, suddenly Gandhi decided to lower down the movement. But Gandhi, many historians are arguing that he, in the name of non-violence, he just withdraw the movement, thinking that movement is going beyond his hand or beyond his control, or there are many other theories and counter theories. But once Gandhi, being the celebrated historical figure, he withdraw the movement. Non-violence was, of course, one of the major problems. But we hardly realize that the cost of movement, how much cost the Indian people have paid for that movement. More than 1,000 people were inquired, 295 or 96 people were prosecuted for the life, 45 have been hanged immediately, and so because it was crushed badly. Why I am discussing this? Because that was the beauty of the movement to make India a plural India. We hardly talk about who was the hero of Chauri Chaura. It was not Mr. Gandhi, because Mr. Gandhi has withdrawn the movement. Who was the hero of Chauri Chaura? ही इतना बड़ा मूवमेंट हुआ ना, 250 लोगों को जीवन के लिए सजा मिल गई, 45 लोग से ज्यादा फांसी पे चढ़ा दिए गए. Who was the hero? He was Nizam Ali. And it was not only Nizam Ali, उसको हम लोग नहीं जान पाएंगे अगर हम चौरी चौरा को इस तरीके से नहीं पढ़ेंगे. It was a good intervention by Sahid Amin through his book. So he was Nizam Ali. और ये निजाम अली करते क्या थे? Was he a politician? No, he was not a politician at all. उनको लगा कि खिलाफत मूवमेंट is a complete composite reflection of Hindus and Muslims against the British rulers. That's why he participated. By training he was a wrestler. वो कुश्ती खेलते थे. अब आप कहेंगे कोई निजाम अली कुश्ती खेलने वाला आदमी अचानक से स्वाधीनता संग्राम में कैसे कूद गया, ना कोई ट्रेनिंग ना कोई पॉलिटिकल. ही वाज नॉट ए मेंबर ऑफ कांग्रेस. वो कांग्रेस का भी मेंबर नहीं था. कांग्रेस के तो जो मेंबर थे वो तो संघ हीरो में थे, वो तो हीरो थे. ही वाज नॉट बिलोंगिंग टू ए पार्टी. एंड हु वाज द सेकंड पर्सन जो उनका साथ दे रहे थे? कोमल. अब निजाम अली, कोमल. See, this is the plurality that Safi Bhai was talking about. Then I thought how plurality was created by these unsung heroes. It was not the place is Chauri Chaura. We are talking, whenever we are talking Chauri Chaura, we always talk about Gandhi. Gandhi is already celebrated figure. Nobody knows about Nizam Ali. He was hanged. फांसी दी गई उनको. And the second person, कोमल, वो कौन थे? वो एक डकैत थे. अब एक रेसलर, एक डकैत जिसका पॉलिटिक्स से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, एंड दे सडनली डिसाइडेड टू फाइट विद द माइटी ब्रिटिश एम्पायर. वो जानते थे कि हश्र क्या होने वाला है. ऐसा नहीं कि वो नहीं जानते थे कि हम चौरी चौरा में पुलिस थाने को आग लगाएंगे तो अंग्रेज हमें कोई बुला के कोई माला पहनाएंगे. That was not the story. But this was the power of plurality. power of composite culture, that people decided to, we have to keep, whether I am a Muslim or I am a Hindu. और कोमल जी का बैकग्राउंड क्या है? वो डकैत है, उनको भी फांसी हुई, but unfortunately he turned into a government approver. आप समझ गए? तो he was transported for the life, something happened. So I was just telling this story of Chauri Chaura, that we have to create these kind of unsung heroes connection. Not only talking about unsung hero taking their contribution, they are important, but how they have contributed in creating the plural. See, always remember, plurality is the essence of Indian civilization. You can't talk about, you can't create any kind of knowledge minusing the idea of plurality, because it will be half the knowledge. The fact will be fact, but it is not given into perspective, so it will lose its moral appeal. That I have started my talk with that proposition. Second, गांधी जी पे ही हम बात करें, जो गांधी जी सबसे बड़े हीरो हैं. I am not deteriorating the place of Gandhi. Of course, he is. We know that Gandhi's first सत्याग्रह movement was in चंपारण, बिहार. आज बिहार की बात भी कर रहे थे, चंपारण मूवमेंट की बात कर रहे थे. आप everybody knows that why Gandhi was called in Champaran, to fight against the operation of indigo farming, and indigo farming was completely dominated by the British managers with the help of Indian zamindars. So it was one of the worst kind of agrarian exploitation in the history of India that people were saying. So Gandhi went there, and Gandhi started doing petition for them. On the behalf of all the agricultural laborers, and suddenly Gandhi decided to stay back in Champaran for 10 or 15 days, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was also accompanying Gandhi, who would become the first president of India. अब यहाँ पे एक unsung hero कहाँ से आता है, जिसको बिल्कुल हम याद नहीं करते हैं. And again this is example of plurality. I am talking only unsung heroes who are concerned about the idea of plurality, because उन्होंने कहा था कि कैसे unsung hero ने, how they have tried to make India plural India. So British manager who was managing a indigo farm thought that Gandhi is becoming a big nuisance for us, because every day he is taking petition, pressurizing us, and all the indigo farmers are following Gandhi, and it is going to become a rebel against the British Empire or the Britishers. So by knowing Gandhi's position, one of the biggest zamindars or biggest indigo farm manager called Mr. Gandhi for a dinner. ठीक, अब गांधी जी को डिनर पे बुलाएं. So Gandhi ji used to have milk after the dinner. So the idea was that the cook of the manager was a Muslim, and his name was Battak Mia. So the manager called Battak Mia and said that this is between you and me, you will be awarded heavily. You are supposed to put some poison in Gandhi's milk. अब तो अगर वो काम हुआ होता तो चंपारण में ही पूरा सत्याग्रह हमारा खत्म हो गया होता उसी रात. So now Battak Mia was employer of that British manager. So he has a order from his employer that you have to do this act. By the time Battak Mia came to know about Gandhiji, that he is a person, he is a saint, he is trying to free India, free from oppression. So he has this understanding. So he thought, what I should do? If I am not giving the milk, I will be killed before that. So he did the same thing, but he went to Gandhiji with the milk, and before giving the milk, he said the entire plot. So you are not supposed to drink this milk, because this is a poisoned milk. I was forced to put poison in the milk, but I have decided that I will tell you the story. Many people can see who was the witness. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was a witness. He was a witness to this entire story. And finally, Battak Mia was tortured for 10 days for reasons, because he revealed the program. So Battak Mia was tortured for 10 days. Finally, he was killed by the Britishers. And when Rajendra Prasad became president of first president of independent India, he traveled to Motihari. He met son of Battak Mia, and he ordered Bihar government to give some amount of land so that Battak Mia family can survive on those land. So still I think उनका 4th generation है बत्तख मियाँ जी का, जो they are fighting with the Bihar government to getting that land or this kind of story. So this is my second unsung hero who actually was a hero. Battak Miya was a hero because he who saved Gandhi ji. So, and why Battak Miya? You can understand the context of plurality. Why Battak Miya has decided to take all the responsibility and going against the wishes of his employer, decided to be the culprit and finally do all these things. So he was the unsung hero. He was not only the unsung hero, he makes India a plural India. His reflections makes India a plural India. Now come to the third hero. Today your principal started talking about Khudiram Bose. I am coming from the same town where Khudiram Bose has thrown bomb to the British officer cartridge, thinking that it was a British collector, because British collector there in Muzaffarpur was known for torturing all the freedom fighters. Bengal reached Muzaffarpur to throw a bomb on him, and he throws a bomb on him thinking that the collector is traveling into the cartridge, but someone else was there, and he was hanged. And when he was hanged, he was just 18. So many people appeal that this is not the right age to hang somebody. He was hanged in a very early age. But there is a different story of Muzaffarpur that I want to share you, which again makes the role of unsung hero as a plural India. And he is Mr. Maghfoor Azazi. बहुत लोग नहीं जानते उनका नाम. आप गूगल करेंगे तो पता चल जाएगा. So, when Muslim League politics and Congress politics came into conflict, and this was about to division of India, so he was one of the hero, because Muzaffarpur, the name itself shows, having a sizable population of Muslims. So they started making signature campaign, and that signature campaign was that territorial separation is not reflection of the composite culture. See, देखिए छोटे छोटे लोग, उनको कोई माइकल वॉल्जर का नाम, उनको वो माइकल वॉल्जर तो उनके बहुत बाद आए होंगे, उनको ये कुछ थियरी पता नहीं होगा. ही वॉज अ कॉमन मैन ऑफ मुजफ्फरपुर. डिसाइडेड ठीक है कि हम लोग, सो उन्होंने जितने भी मुजफ्फरपुर के मुस्लिम थे, और कुछ तो एलिट मुस्लिम थे जो पटना में, मुजफ्फरपुर में, कुछ राजेंद्र प्रसाद के सहयोगी थे, ऑल फ्रॉम द कांग्रेस और सम अदर पार्टीज. And he started a signature campaign that we should resist the territorial separation, because this is not reflection of the composite culture which I am talking about, the plural India that we are talking about. And despite having a large number of Muslim population, when during the partition we know about the story of riots and bloodbath, this town hasn't seen any kind of, not only Muzaffarpur, Patna, Samastipur, all adjoining districts, because of this campaign, because everybody was knowing that we don't have to follow the territorial separation of based on, it may be religion or based on, but it is not reflecting the Hindustan we are living in, the values we are living in, because they have also hosted Mr. Gandhi 30 years back, because Gandhi 1917 में बिहार गए थे, और ये 46-47 की story है. So the 30 years of composite culture that Battuk Miya has established, the 30 years of composite culture that Battuk Miya has established in Motihari, the adjacent town of Muzaffarpur, was flowing in Muzaffarpur through people like Maghfoor Azazi. Similarly, people like Safi Dawoodi, he is another person. There is a market in Muzaffarpur called Safi Dawoodi market. So he was also one of the person who was propagating this campaign, and he went with this proposal to the Congress meeting in Patna, saying that we should being a Muslim, we should oppose this territorial concept of territorial separation, because territorial separation is not fulfilling our cultural aspirations. So see, the cultural aspirations are much more important to construct the idea of nation. And what happened? See, nation states, of course, are the serious mistakes of history. We know that. But if within the nation space, within the nation state space, when we are talking about the harmonious cohabitance, harmonious existence of each and every one, then you can only think the only way is to talk about the composite culture. So my argument through this lecture is, we have to do something. We have to, actually we wanted to सेलिब्रेट अनसंग हीरो, जिनको हम जानते नहीं है, तो प्लीज उनको याद कीजिए जिन्होंने, जिनके लाइफ का ये मूल था. पीपल लाइक नजीर अली, ही वॉज ए रेसलर, उनको कोई पता नहीं था पॉलिटिक्स से. लाइक बटुक मियाँ, ही वॉज ए कुक, ही डजंट हैव टू डू एनीथिंग विद द पॉलिटिक्स. आप सोचिए कि कोई कुक क्यों पढ़ने जाएगा इस झमेले में, भाई क्या करना है नहीं करना है. एक रेसलर क्यों पढ़ने जाएगा आज़ादी के लड़ाई में, और क्यों ये बातें होंगी. लेकिन भी रिमेंबर गांधी जी. लेकिन अब ये हिस्टोरियंस जो है, ये लोग छूटे हुए लोग हैं. Those who are not covered in the lessons of history, like people like Batak Mia, and people like Nazir Ali, people like Gufar Ezazi, people like Safi Daudi. So we have to not only, that's why I said, if we have to actually remember those unsung hero, we have to remember those for the values for which they have lived their life. It is not the person who is important. Always remember, history never remembers person. जो हिस्ट्री पर्सन्स के नाम से चलता है ना, उसका टाइम बहुत जल्दी आ जाता है. जो हिस्ट्री आइडियाज के दम पे चलता है ना, उसका लंबा टाइम होता है. बिकॉज आइडियाज क्रॉस द जनरेशंस. पर्सन तो हम भूल जाएंगे. आप हम सब बल्ब जलाते हैं, हमको थोड़ी ना पता है कि थॉमस अल्वा एडिसन जी ने किया. लेकिन बल्ब जो है, जब हम बल्ब के बारे में सोचते हैं तो हमें थॉमस अल्वा एडिसन का याद आता है. हवाई जहाज के बारे में सोचते हैं तो हमें राइट ब्रदर्स के बारे में याद आता है. सो द आइडियाज आर क्रॉसिंग जनरेशन टू जनरेशन, एंड द आइडियाज ऑफ डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज वेर दैट वी हैव टू सर्वाइव द कंपोजिट कल्चर इन दिस हिंदुस्तान, एंड दे वर द पीपल लाइक बतक मियाँ, नाजिर अली, एंड मेनी अदर्स. बेगम में आप सुबह में नाम लेते जो बंगाल की हैं, हजरत मैदानी, सी इज फ्रॉम बंगाल. एंड अब जैसे इन्होंने कमला चट्टोपाध्याय की बात की. पीपल लाइक कमला चट्टोपाध्याय वर रिस्पॉन्सिबल नॉट ओनली डायरेक्टली फाइटिंग विद द ब्रिटिशर्स, बट सी वॉज ट्राइंग टू सेव द आर्ट एंड क्राफ्ट, जिसके लिए आपका कश्मीर भी जाना जाता है. Her major contribution was in the field of saving arts and craft against the growing economy of British imperialism. So एक value था, it was not only the art and craft, the value that we can produce in the terms of economy, the permanent value, the art, जिसको हम art and craft बोलते हैं. She was very concerned about that. So we have to understand the values those unsung heroes has left in the society as their mark. गांधी जी को इसलिए हम याद नहीं करते कि उनका नाम महात्मा गांधी था या मोहनदास करमचंद गांधी था. हम इसलिए याद करते हैं कि नॉन वायलेंस इज ए पॉलिसी व्हिच रिक्वायर्ड बाय ऑल जनरेशंस ऑफ द ह्यूमन बीइंग. सो वी हैव टू, that's why I said that historiography has to change, and the historiography has to correct it by political scientists by inculcating the idea of values with which the person or the event survive in our memory. Chaudi Chaura survived not only because Gandhiji had withdrawn and it was a violent movement. Chaudi Chaura also survived because it was a composite culture, a strength shown towards the Britishers by people like Komal and Ali. So this is the second argument that I wanted to argue for in the favor of unsung hero. And this was a story of Champaran, Batak Mia, and Chaudi Chaura, a story of Nazar Ali and Komal. And similarly, there are many people we are talking about, tribal movements like Mopla or Birsa Munda or women's movement. Similarly, we are hardly talking about the student movement in pre-independent India. This was also one of the area that unsung heroes category, as a matter of thing, it has to be taken into account. And the third argument is that, do we think that actually heroes are important for our societies? Do we really think heroes are important for our society? So somebody was saying, questioning Dr. Thakur, that idealism is not going to survive. So actually we do want to have a heroes who have talked about these normative ideas, or we don't want to have a hero because this is not real or this is not practical. So recently one of his students in our university committed suicide from the 3rd floor. Why values are important? I'm just talking about a small story. So she committed suicide by jumping from a 3rd floor. So like a reaction, one of the faculty member of one college said that we should close all the windows. At least it will save the suicide. So this is the difference between practical approach and the normative approach. The realist will try to close all the windows despite knowing into the causal factors leading to suicide, but they will go by the symptomic or structural logic. भाई खिड़की से जंप किया तो खिड़की बंद कर दो, कितना खिड़की बंद कर लोगे आप टेंडेंसी को रोको ना, why people are committing suicide, इस पे आप डिबेट करो ना. Whether she was ignored by family, whether she was ignored by peer, whether she was facing some financial issues, whether something else has happened to her. We are not talking about the gender questions in public. आप उनको सुनने का आप जहमत नहीं उठा रहे हैं. आपने क्या फैसला लिया कि हम सारा खिड़की बंद कर देंगे, इससे सुसाइड उठ जाएगा. Practicality is the practical answer. Those realist thinkers thinking that they are giving the practical answer to the problem, basically they are dealing with the symptomatic relief to the problem. आपको हेडेक हुआ, आप सेरोडोन खा लिए, खत्म कहानी. We never try to know your metabolism का कोई प्रॉब्लम है यार, बार बार ऐसे होता है इसलिए प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है. So you have to know the metabolism of society. And the metabolism of society says that it is a composite cultured society built in the hundreds of years. And you can't destroy by learning into the symptomatic factor or giving solution according to that. So we have to talk about the ideal thing. So now we were talking about why do we need a hero. So the answer is that we need a hero. Not only the hero is very smart, tall. That is not the case. The hero is inculcating some moral appeal, some normative values, some ideas about democracy, composite culture, liberty, fraternity, equality. That's why they are hero. So how the hero sustains, or why the hero sustains, we can answer that. So this is the last part of my argument. Why hero sustains, or why heroism sustains. So this is a small story. And I'm not talking about all great war heroes. War heroes are important. They are doing their own job. So they are important, who are getting a lot of medals and recognition by the state. But I'm talking about the common man's hero. How the common man's hero come into picture, and why they are sustaining the society and themselves. The heroism, the idea of heroism they are sustaining. So there is a small story we were sharing at the time of lunch. So this is a story of civilization. So there was a teacher like me, and many students were sitting in the class who enters the class, and he said that, what is civilization? So one student argued that civilization is a place or is a time era where civilized people are living. That is called civilization. Who is civilization? है तो civilized लोग ही रहेंगे. So then teacher asked, who is civilized? Now starting of the constructing the heroship, how the heroship get constituted. So who is civilized? So many, since they were the kids of 7th or 8th class, so they were saying, sir, जिसके पास लंबी लंबी गाड़ियाँ हों, खाने के लिए अच्छे हों, जिनके पास they have the opportunity to go to movie hall, to theater for some amusement, so they are the civilized people. जिसको हम भी आज मानते हैं कि जो civilized people है, जो बड़े बड़े घरों में रहते हैं, बड़ी बड़ी गाड़ियों में घूमते हैं. So teacher said, no, they are not civilized people. So then who are civilized people? So teacher is again problematizing the thing. He said, a civilized person is a person who creates permanent beauty. Now the students are more confused. Who is a person who is creating permanent beauty? So now the teacher defines the permanent beauty is a beauty which will be recognized after your life. So बच्चों को और समझ में नहीं आया तो और कॉम्प्लेक्स हो गया. तो टीचर ने एग्जाम्पल दिया, बेथोवेन का म्यूजिक, शेक्सपियर का ड्रामा. मीन्स शेक्सपियर नहीं है, हम में से बहुत सारे लोग शेक्सपियर को जानते भी नहीं जो इंग्लिश लिटरेचर नहीं होंगे. बट इफ द play of Shakespeare is going on, we used to go to theater, we watch it, we used to think through that play and act. Premchand की कहानियाँ, they are the actual sun heroes who created some kind of value. So the idea of heroship constituted not by actually who are leading from the front. They have the role, they are necessary, they might be the necessary condition, but not the sufficient condition to create a heroism. The common man hero is produced through your day-to-day life. The common man hero is Premchand की कहानियाँ. So something we have to create in our lifetime which will be remembered after me. My innovation, my creation, my poetry. जैसे अभी मनीष सर ने लेक्चर में जो यहाँ के 2 कश्मीर के पोएट थे उनके पोएट्री के बारे में कहा, जिनको इन्होंने अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन भी किया. सो उनके सुनते ही हमको पोएट से ज़्यादा उस पोएट्री का जो कंटेंट है वो हमको अपील करने लगता है. कि how he is talking about, oh man, this is the situation, you have to change the situation, don't do this or don't. So the constitution of heroship is itself a very difficult process. And my final argument is that every society not deliberately create the heroship, or heroship is not crafted. जो crafted heroship है वो ठीक नहीं है, वो तो फिर आपने सुना होगा लोग पैसे दे के भी अवार्ड पा लेते हैं हीरो बनने के लिए. So the real heroship comes from the value generation for the society, and that value generation is a continuous process. It's not a process that today is started, tomorrow it will go on. But the essence of this process, what is the essence of this process? The essence of this process is composite culture and democratization of society with which we are living everyday life. I'm not talking about how Congress was democratic or how BJP is democratic or tomorrow some else party will be democratic. It is we the people of India. It is we the people of India who have to have this idea of hero worshipping, or which must have this idea of how we can constitute a hero for the society, the hero which is going to be remembered in future. So if we talk about the true India, and if we talk about the really true unsung heroes, they were those people like Nazar Ali, like Battak Mia, and like many others who not only save Gandhi, who not only fight with police for the Chauri Chora, but who actually inculcated a value system in the society that we are product of composite culture, and we can only go ahead through the process of democratization, through the process of living together, through the process of fraternity. I think there is some semblance between fraternity and bhaichara, but both as a process has a different linguistic structure also. So the kind of bhaichara that has been created through our cultural connotations were important for those unsung heroes, and this was this culture of bhaichara which has created the idea of India we are talking about, or which was the role of all unsung hero to keep not only India shining, but to keep India a plural India. And plurality is our asset, I told you. Without that we can't survive. Thank you very much for giving a presence here.